Hi everyone, it's Occult here again with an exciting thriller story that will actually keep you guessing until the very end. This is a movie named Contratiempo, or also known as The Invisible Guest. So let's start without any further delay. In the opening scene, we see an old lady, Virginia Goodman, lands up at Adrian's house. Adrian Doria is a wealthy businessman who have hired Virginia Goodman to defend him. What actually happened is, Adrian wakes up in a locked hotel room next to the body of his dead girlfriend, Laura Vidal, and accused of murdering her. Goodman is a soon-to-retire veteran lawyer who is an expert in preparing witnesses in lead of high-profile court cases. Goodman is determined not to lose on her final case, and so she begins walking through Adrian's story of what happened the night he was found in the hotel room. What Adrian has been saying is that he is innocent. He claims that someone got to know about his affair with Laura and was blackmailing them both. As Adrian is already married and has one daughter, they were both called to that remote hotel, and they went there with the money. Adrian claims that the attacker was in the room, and he smashed Adrian's head against the mirror and knocked him unconscious. When he gained consciousness, he realized that the attacker has killed Laura and has escaped. As Virginia initially talks to Adrian, she knows this is utter bullshit, and throwing a newspaper on the table, Virginia tells him, "There'll be no salvation without suffering, and you're not smarter than me." And bring up the case of missing boy Daniel. Hence Adrian confessed the accident story. Adrian says that Laura wants to end their carnal relationship. On their drive back, they were discussing this, and Adrian loses sight of an oncoming car and collides with it. Adrian and Laura were not hurt, but the kid in the other car seems to be dead. And that kid was Daniel. Adrian says that it was he who tried to call the cops, but Laura stopped him and convinced him that they ought to put the body in the trunk, and then Adrian should ditch the car. That when a car passed by, it was Laura who took the lead to hide Daniel's body and pretend that they had had an accident. That it was Laura who asked him to get rid of Daniel's car and body. He leaves Laura there with Daniel's phone and asks her to wait for help. As Laura sits in the car and waits for service to come for help, she's approached by another car. It's Tomas Garrido, Daniel's father. He's driving by and stops to help Laura. She doesn't know that he's Daniel's father. Tomas asks for a flashlight. Laura fumbles as it is not her car. She quickly says that it's her sister's car which she has borrowed. He tows her car and they take it to his place to get it fixed. She says her name is Raquel and that she owns a bookstore. Tomas says that he lives with his wife Elvira, who has cancer, and that the two of them were into theater long ago, and that's how they met. This part is crucial. Tomas and his wife know how to portray a character through the means of acting. Being part of theater also gives them the know-how of makeup. Tomas gets working on the car. Laura and Elvira sit to chat and she gives Laura a picture of her son. She realizes that she is in the very house of the kid they have killed. Elvira gets a call saying her son hasn't reached yet. She begins to worry. Laura prepares to leave, but Elvira says she's going to call Daniel. Laura has Daniel's phone. As it begins ringing, she puts it on the couch and covers it with a pillow. Elvira finds it odd that the Daniel left home without his phone. Laura leaves, but as she sits, she adjusts the car seat before driving off. Meaning someone else was driving it before her. They get rid of the car at a scrapyard. Adrian and Laura decide never to meet again. Adrian goes back pretending like he has gotten back from Paris and reports that his car was stolen from a public parking lot. Laura had taken Daniel's wallet soon after the accident, and uses the bank card in the wallet to get money siphoned into Daniel's account. This frames Daniel for running away with 50,000 euros of the bank's money. The news says that Daniel has faked his own death to run away with the money. Tomas and Elvira are destroyed by this news. Adrian goes back to his normal life. He gains success. He lives happily. Tomas later comes to know that his son's car's debris is found at the same spot he helped the lady. He begins suspecting her but is unable to reach her as she tells him her name is Raquel. However, Tomas confronts Adrian at an event and demands to know where his son is. Tomas confirms that the second person in the car was Adrian when he sees his cigarette lighter. He saw the same lighter in the Raquel's car on the day of the accident. Tomas tosses the lighter into a decorative pool and notices the expression on Adrian's face. He confirms that Adrian must have dumped Daniel's car in some lake. Soon security gets to Tomas, and they throw him out. Days later, Adrian receives a photo of a lake, with instructions to take Laura to the rural hotel with 100,000 euros. Adrian thinks the blackmailer may be the driver they saw, who was driving by just after the accident. Back in the present, Virginia suggests that, in order to save himself, Adrian could claim he saw the face of the man who hit him in the rural hotel room, and that the attacker was Tomas. Adrian then reveals he has always known it was Tomas, as he did see his face, but he didn't say it because he was testing Virginia. Just after it, Virginia asks him where he had sunk the car, and give him a map to point that. Adrian points the locations. Adrian then also confesses that, as he was pushing the car into the lake, Daniel woke up. He noticed that Daniel is still alive. Virginia is visibly shocked, yet she states she will not reveal this to the judge. Virginia says Laura's medical records show she was suffering from anxiety, likely from a guilty conscience, and suggests Adrian is lying to make it seem like Laura was the mastermind behind their deceit. Virginia also said that, what if Laura herself decided it, that the only way she can regain her dignity is to tell the parents the truth. She wants to give them a sum of money, and turn herself in. Obviously, you wouldn't agree. So Laura reaches out to Tomas and Elvira, and arranges for a meeting at the hotel where Elvira worked. She books a hotel room in your name. She calls you from a public phone, and lies to you saying someone knows what they did and she's getting blackmailed. She makes you believe that the driver who passed by was the blackmailer and is demanding money. She goes to the hotel and waits for you. When you arrived, Laura tells you that she has set this up, and that they needed to confess to the parents, give them the cash and turn themselves in. You realize that you have fallen into Laura's trap and the reservation is in your name too. You lost your mind and killed Laura, and gets trapped in a room you can't escape from. Then you smashes your own head on the mirror, and pleads innocent when the cops come in. Virginia says Tomas has been stalking Adrian, Felix and even herself, and points to an apartment across the street, where Tomas is lurking. She continues to push Adrian, who finally admits that he killed Laura and staged the scene. Felix leaves a message on Adrian's home voicemail, urging him to call back as he was unable to reach him on his cell phone. Virginia suggests he should call Felix as they take a quick 10-minute break. She exits the apartment with great urgency. Adrian meanwhile turns on his cell phone and calls Felix. Felix again says to Adrian that he could not get a hold of him, and informs him that the prosecution's witness is indeed the other driver, but his silence was successfully bought. As Felix questions how the meeting with Virginia is going, the call is getting disturbed with high-pitched tones. Adrian then realizes that their entire conversation is being recorded. He recalls Virginia turning off his phone previously, most probably so the cell phone signal would not disrupt the recording. He looks into the apartment across the street, and sees Tomas standing next to Virginia, who reveals herself to be Elvira Garrido in disguise. Using the confession Elvira coerced from Adrian, Tomas calls the police as the real Virginia Goodman arrives at Adrian's apartment. And the film ends. That's it guys for today. Please share this video if you loved it, and subscribe this channel for more stories.